Good evening.
Good evening, Father.
Good evening.
Good evening, Father.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm just coming back from a retreat, and probably some other day I may have the opportunity of sharing with you my experiences, because I climbed the retreat Discovering America in a moment. So I went to some of the famous places that I guess everyone wants to go. So I will tell you my experience sometime when the need comes, especially as regards the readings. But one thing is very important today. In the first reading, it says, "My son or my child, conduct your affairs with humility, so that you will be loved by the giver of life." Conduct yourself with humility. And the gospel looked like it says almost, in fact, it interpreted everything that the first reading said. Jesus was invited by a Pharisee, and the people there were observing him so meticulously that they wanted him to falter, so that they would take hold of that. But Jesus was also busy looking for an opportunity to teach. And he gave them an example of someone who does not conduct his affairs with humility. And so he went on to share them with a story of someone being invited, or many people invited in a ceremony, and someone thought himself to be one of the best guests and took a position. And eventually, at the end of the day, he was embarrassed because there were many other higher guests. And so the man who was embarrassed that usurped somebody's position was embarrassed because he was thinking so much of himself. And he was embarrassed. My dear friend, I'm wondering if you have been embarrassed in your life because you seem to have done something you think you should be given accolades, and at the same time you find yourself at the laughing moment or at the laughing spot. I have to share with you some story. There is something that happened when I came here, when I arrived here newly. You know, when I was in Nigeria, I was a manager and the principal of a very highly rated school. And I had populations of students. And it was so, I could guess I was a good leader because of a whole lot of things that people said and I saw myself doing. But the part of the story I want to share with you is the fact that when I was in Nigeria, because I was handling young adults, do I call them adults? High school students. So they thought that I knew everything. So they saw me as somebody who knew everything. Because in the Nigerian system, you have to lead by example. And so when you lead by example, a whole lot of things are done by you. And you have to match things out before people could look at you and then follow you. And so at any point in time, I have tried to for me to get through some certain things, I have to be intuitively creative. So you have to be bringing something at the spot. You don't need to be put at the spot. So you need to find something to get out of in certain situations, both in the staff meeting or with the students. And so, from one thing or the other, I have been very lucky to have provided some solutions at difficult moments, especially from the fact that the school, when I started, was almost getting closed. So, by the grace of God, I turned the school around. So, for me, myself, I believe I could know a whole lot of stuff. And I never knew I didn't know nothing. So I was thinking I knew something. In fact, if I share after this story, you will continue to laugh at me whenever you see me. You better begin to laugh right now, because at the end, you will be so much, in fact, let me finish up the story. So, when I came up here, thinking from an environment where everybody adore you, everybody like seek solutions from you, and I came here, I don't know how to cook. In Nigeria, I have two cooks. So they are spaced out in such a way that someone can cook from morning, cooks be in the house, they'll cook morning, afternoon, and night. So somebody has to rest. So the other person is going on rest for a day, the other person has to still up. So I came here, I don't know how to cook. It's not all about me, it's all about Nigerian system. So we have permanently employed cook. And for them, it's even a privilege to cook for priests. So they may just be volunteers. So it's not like we are kings. No, people want to serve the priest of God. Priests are revered so much in Nigeria. Now, I don't know how to cook. And I came in here. And I saw everything except food. I went to the pantry, there are teas and a whole lot of other things. And Mike would come in the morning, hey, Vitus, how are you? Before he go to the pantry, bam, 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 bam. Before you know it, the breakfast is ready for him. And I'll be looking at him, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to cook, I don't know how to convert all the things there to food. And one day he told me, look at this, look at that, this is cheese, this is bread. Sometimes you can do this, you can toast this, you can do that, and then you get breakfast. I said, okay. And something happened one day, my dear wonderful friends. I thought I could make a breakfast. Look at what I did in making a breakfast. I got a bread, toastable bread, and I said, oh, this is cheese, right? And then I got the cheese, put it in the bread, close it, put it in the toaster. And I was like thinking that this cheese has to melt and then like butter, you could like give me a very sweet taste. Before I know it, Mike came around and said, oh, Vitus, what are you doing? This is not it. Oh my goodness, those bread, cheese. I said, I don't know. And it was like a funny situation. And up to this moment, whenever we gather down, he will remind me how I have been toasting cheese.
What was it?
Don't ask me what happened after that. Don't ever go there. But look at why I brought up the story. A guy who thought he knew. A guy who everybody adored. A guy who thought he could not be put on the spot. A guy who had directed everything. Now came to an environment where he knew nothing. And he made mess of himself. Toasting cheese. Right? But that's how life is, my dear wonderful friends. Where you think you know. Right? Where you think you know, that's when you think you don't know. You don't know. How had it been I was like showing off and I have my phone? Can you imagine that situation? Like telling people, oh, now I'm in America, I'm trying to take breakfast, watch out and see what happens, and then they will be seeing me toasting cheese. Imagine that. But that's actually what God wants us to know. That we have to conduct our affairs with humility. Because even if when you think you know, it is only within that environment It could only be within that situation. If you step out of that situation, if you step out of that environment, if you step out of that knowledge, you find yourself knowing nothing. In fact, you will be close to toasting cheese with bread. And most of the things that happen because of pride. I was lucky to have Mike by my side who would ever tell me that such things are not done. And then he told me what to do with cheese. Because in Nigeria, we don't, naturally, I don't think cheese is part of our culture and food. I saw cheese as something that can melt like butter. Though as a principal of the school, I could have known what a cheese is. But unfortunately, I don't know about it. My environment changed, my level of knowledge dwarfed. You remember the other time we talked about BS1? Because I thought everybody was laughing, I thought I was making a point. When I was actually making mess of myself. And so Jesus wants us to know that no matter where we find ourselves, let us conduct our affairs with humility. Because even what you have, whatever you have, does not belong to you. What is that you have that is not given to you? Whatever that you acquire, be it knowledge, be it master of everything, it was acquired, it was given to you by another person through God. If you're a professor in university, you didn't just get up one day to become a professor in university. Someone has to teach you that knowledge and you have to acquire that. And if you're a professor in mathematics, when you come from mathematics and go to geology, you become nobody. When we bring it down to the realities of life, you may have this, and you think because everybody needs what you have, therefore you are there to dictate what happens in the family. Sometimes you make mess of people because you dictate people's life, because you can do this or pay their bills. It's not because you are smarter, that's why you have money, or you can earn money than others, or you can pass your exams like more than others. You can be a breadwinner in the family not because God loves you more. It could be for a reason. Even at that point you think you can pay bills. There are some places where you go, your money can buy you nothing. And so my dear friends, today is an opportunity for us to reevaluate ourselves and see how we can conduct ourselves with humility. Humility is not all about thinking less, bringing yourself down. It is not. It's about thinking less of yourself instead of thinking more about yourself. You have to give yourself out. Find an opportunity of giving yourself out. Most of the problems we have in the world today is all about pride. Everybody thinks you are the person being wrong. One thing happened. There is a story being told in our environment. I have to be brief with this. In African culture, with this idea of communalism, people living together, doing things together, families living together, you marry your wife, your brother marries his wife, everybody is in the same house. And so something happened one day. Two women that were married by two sisters-in-laws were cooking. And they were quarreling because sometimes, because you live together, you have to quarrel often. In fact, in a family where people don't quarrel, that is not a family. So if your family is not fighting, then that's not family at all. But I look for it. But I'm telling you the truth. If your family is not fighting, That's not your family at all. That's not family. That is in heaven, not in this world. But the thing is about fighting is that you have to be humble enough to accept your mistakes. So you fight to make up, right? That's the point. But not fighting at all is ungodly. I have to tell you that. So you have to fight to be okay. I don't know if I made a very wide statement, but the issue is that you need to fight together sometimes. So these two women were fighting, but they were not so much humble enough to accept their mistakes. And one day, they were cooking dinner. And so when they were cooking dinner, because in one kitchen you can have, if you're cooking, you can see some spices and take. But this way, they were fighting so much that both of them were cooking. And you know, when women are fighting, sometimes they make noise. The kind of noise they make is that the other person will be singing, the other person will be singing. And not both of them, the person will be singing and dancing, the other person will be singing and dancing. So these two ladies were singing and dancing for themselves, in order to hurt the other person or to feel superior over the other person. And the other person will be singing higher. So they were like doing singing competition. Then something happened. One person was cooking something that demands salt. And without the salt, the soup, the food is nothing. And he never knew that she ran out of salt. The other person was cooking something that demands hot pepper. And without that hot pepper, the food tastes like nothing. Unfortunately for them, this person that has no salt has a pepper. The other person that has the pepper has no salt. And they needed to communicate to one another because they need to get that food well out of the kitchen. And they were singing. And the food is about done. And they don't know how to talk to one another. And something happened. When they become very obvious that they have to swallow their pride to get the food done. So one person, in our culture, there is something we call mortar. Something we use to grind things, but it has to be manual. So the other lady who needed hot pepper couldn't hold it anymore. And then he began to pound. You know, in a way, in Nigeria, music is very important. Music is very, very important. Because in a community work, they sing. You sing, you do some work, so you won't get tired. So singing is part of a lot of job. When you hire people a big job and they were cutting, they could be singing and then be doing the job. It will be like softening the pain. So the lady was pounding something, something that he used to, whatever he needed. And that was the person with the pepper. He was pounding the hot pepper in front of the other guy. And he needed salt. So look at what she did. He was pounding and singing in our native language, but I will translate that in English. My sister, let us make amends. My sister, let us make amends. Because we need one another. We need one another. So she was pounding, but in our local language, you guys, how do you go? Can you do see no come? Can you do see no come? So the summary of it is that let us make amends, because without that, we cannot get this done. And eventually, they embraced themselves. And they were able to exchange salt and pepper. Right?
Right.
And the food got done. And everybody were happy. But because of pride, they were not able to say sorry prior before that moment. But maybe God brought those moments to them so that they could humble themselves to say, I'm sorry. I don't know how many fights in the family that have been going on because one person doesn't want to say, I'm sorry. Like I made a very voracious statement, very wide statement, extreme statement that not to fight is ungodly. Of course, you understood what I mean. But it's more likely to fight. But most times, fight goes beyond guarded moment because people are not humble to say, I'm sorry. Is there somebody you need to say, I'm sorry today? Is there somebody you need to understand that the way you have been treating this person is not the best? Has someone been wronging people and become selfish but doesn't want to say, I'm sorry? Today may be a time you need to think twice to know that you need to make amends. You need to say, I'm sorry. You need to humble yourself to get things done because divided we fall. United we stand. Many things can get done by the cooperation of one another. Remember, you may not know everything. Whatever you know, when you change an environment, you'll be toasting bread with cheese.